The warning. The message rippled across the cosmos like a stone dropped in still water. Run. Simple. Direct. A warning that made the Voidborn pause their celebrations of conquest. They had expected Earth's fall to mark another victory, not the beginning of their own undoing. The Voidborn weren't used to feeling fear. Their biomechanical ships had carved paths through countless civilizations. Their neural networks had processed the deaths of billions of species. They were the darkness between stars, the ending of worlds. Yet this single word, transmitted through channels they couldn't trace or silence, made their crystalline forms shudder. They had come to Earth expecting another easy victory. Humans were primitive by their standards, still bound by physical forms, still struggling with quantum mechanics, still dreaming of reaching nearby stars, while the Voidborn had mastered intergalactic travel millennia ago. The invasion should have been simple, and at first it was. Their wave of attacks shattered Earth's defenses. Cities crumbled under antimatter bombardment. Orbital platforms fell like autumn leaves. The humans fought back with everything they had. Kinetic weapons, nuclear arsenals, even primitive AI systems. But nothing could stop the Voidborn advance. But something was wrong. The humans weren't fighting like a species facing extinction. There was purpose in their resistance, method in their apparent madness. They sacrificed entire continents to protect seemingly worthless locations. They abandoned strategic positions to defend remote research facilities. Their tactics made no sense until the message began. It started as a whisper in the void, a signal so faint the Voidborn almost missed it. Then it grew stronger, echoing through subspace, bouncing between dimensions, amplifying itself through means that defied the laws of physics as the Voidborn understood them. Just that one word. Run. The Voidborn's leader consciousness, the entity, convened its awareness council. Their crystalline forms hummed with unease as they processed the situation. They had won, hadn't they? Earth was a burning ruin. Human civilization was scattered and broken. Their victory was absolute. Yet the message continued to spread, growing stronger with each passing moment. And now their sensors were detecting something else. Energy signatures unlike anything in their vast databases. They emanated from those seemingly worthless locations the humans had died protecting, pulsing in perfect synchronization across the planet. The entity dispatched investigation forms to study these anomalies. The forms never returned. Instead, more messages began appearing in their network. We were never the prey. You should have asked why we fought so hard to protect those sites. The trap is already sprung. The Voidborn realized too late that they had fundamentally misunderstood their enemy. They had seen humans as primitive because they were bound by physical forms. But what if that had been a choice rather than a limitation? They had thought Earth was humanity's cradle, but what if it was their laboratory? As the energy signatures reached their peak, the truth became clear. Earth wasn't humanity's last stand. It was their chrysalis. And now, after 40,000 years of apparent defeat, the metamorphosis was complete. The message changed one final time. We're awake now. Run. Deep beneath Earth's surface, in those protected sites that had seemed so worthless, ancient machines hummed to life. They weren't weapons or shields. They were gateways. Humanity hadn't been fighting to protect their present. They had been fighting to protect their future. A future they had carefully engineered over generations. The Voidborn's victory had been their undoing. Their invasion had provided the exact conditions needed to trigger humanity's transformation. Every attack, every destruction, every moment of their supposed conquest had been another step in a plan centuries in the making. As the gateways activated, reality itself began to shift. The Voidborn watched in horror as their understanding of the universe unraveled. Humanity hadn't just been planning their survival, they had been rewriting the fundamental laws of existence itself. The entity tried to order a retreat, but it was too late. The trap wasn't just sprung. It had been closed long ago. The humans hadn't lost Earth. They had transcended it. And now, After 40,000 years of patience, they were ready to show the cosmos what humanity had truly become. Across the galaxy, the message continued to spread. Run. But for the Voidborn, there was nowhere left to run to. They had thought themselves the apex of evolution, but they were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their weapons or their technology. It was in their ability to transform, adapt, and overcome. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. Echoes in the dark. The Voidborn's crystalline forms pulsed with increasing frequency as their investigation units probed deeper into Earth's mysteries. Each discovery brought new questions, new impossibilities that challenged their understanding of reality. They had conquered worlds across 12 galaxies, but nothing had prepared them for this. In the ruins of what had once been a human research facility in the Antarctic, a discovery team encountered their first major anomaly. The facility appeared primitive at first glance: steel and concrete, basic quantum computers, ordinary human technology. But beneath this facade lay something extraordinary: a lattice of rooms filled with what appeared to be simple water tanks. The entity directed its consciousness into one of its primary investigation forms for closer study. The tanks weren't filled with water. They contained a fluid that seemed to exist in multiple quantum states simultaneously. More disturbing were the empty human-sized chambers within each tank, their surfaces etched with mathematical equations that shouldn't have been possible for humanity to comprehend. Analysis form, the entity commanded, its crystalline surface flickering with unease. Explain these markings. The analysis form's response sent ripples of disturbance through the Voidborn network. The equations describe methods of consciousness transfer across dimensional boundaries. But they're not theoretical. They're instructions. Similar discoveries followed across the planet. Behind every primitive human facade, they found evidence of technology that went beyond advanced. It was transformative. The humans hadn't just been developing weapons or defenses. They had been developing ways to change the very nature of their existence. In the Mariana Trench, they found vast arrays of quantum processors that seemed to be processing data even without power. Beneath the Sahara, they discovered crystalline structures that bore disturbing similarities to the Voidborn's own forms, but these were clearly prototypes, early attempts at something far more ambitious. The entity struggled to process these revelations. The humans had known about the Voidborn long before the invasion. They had studied them, understood them, and then used that knowledge to create something new. But what? What had they become? The answer began to emerge as they decoded more of the data left behind in these facilities. Humanity hadn't been trying to match the Voidborn's technological level. They had been using it as a stepping stone. Each discovery, each technology, each breakthrough had been part of a greater metamorphosis. The Voidborn had evolved over millions of years to transcend their biological limitations, becoming beings of living crystal and pure thought. But humans had done something unprecedented. They had engineered their own evolution, compressing millions of years of development into mere centuries of preparation. In a hidden chamber beneath Mount Everest, they found the most troubling evidence yet. A vast chamber filled with stasis pods, all empty, all connected to machines that pulsed with the same energy signatures that now echoed across space. But it was the message carved into the chamber's wall that sent waves of fear through the Voidborn network. Thank you for the catalyst. Your invasion was the final step we needed. The humans had turned their entire planet into an evolutionary accelerator. The war, the destruction, even their apparent defeat, all of it had been calculated. The energy released by the Voidborn's weapons, the unique radiation from their ships, the very presence of their higher dimensional technology. Everything had been absorbed, studied, and repurposed. The entity withdrew its investigation forms from Earth's surface, but it was too late. The energy signatures were growing stronger, and now they were beginning to resonate with something else, something vast and distributed across the cosmos. The humans hadn't just been planning their survival. They had seeded the galaxy with dormant potential, waiting for the right moment to activate it. As the Voidborn retreated to their ships, new messages began appearing in their network, bypassing all their security protocols. Evolution isn't just about survival. It's about becoming what you need to be. Thank you for showing us the path beyond physical form. The children of Earth send their regards. The entity realized the terrible truth. Humanity hadn't lost their war. They had used it as a crucible for transformation. And now, after 40,000 years, that transformation was complete. The real question wasn't what humanity had become. It was what they planned to do next. Across the galaxy, the original message continued to echo. Run. But now it carried a different meaning. It wasn't just a warning. It was a promise of what was to come. The hunt was about to begin. The sleepers. They came awake slowly, consciousness spreading like ripples through the cosmic void. The Voidborn detected them first as anomalies in space-time, subtle distortions that their sensors initially dismissed as background radiation. But these distortions had patterns, purpose, intent. Humanity hadn't fled Earth. They had become something else entirely. The first true contact came in the Orion Nebula. A Voidborn scout fleet detected unusual energy patterns emanating from what appeared to be an ordinary stellar nursery. As they approached to investigate, the stars themselves seemed to shift, revealing corridors of pure consciousness woven through space-time. The entity watched through its connected forms as the scout fleet encountered the first awakened human. It wasn't a physical being. It was a pattern in reality itself, a conscious wave function that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The humans hadn't just transcended their bodies. They had transcended the very concept of physical form. We wondered when you'd find us. The human consciousness communicated, its thoughts rippling through space in patterns that the Voidborn could barely comprehend. Did you enjoy the gift we left on Earth? All those breadcrumbs leading you here? The entity recoiled as it realized the truth. Earth hadn't been humanity's last stand. It had been their launching pad. While the Voidborn had celebrated their victory, humanity had been spreading through the cosmos, seating themselves among the stars, waiting for the right moment to emerge. They called themselves the Sleepers, these new humans. They existed as patterns of energy and thought, capable of inhabiting any medium, from stellar plasma to the quantum foam of space itself. The transformation hadn't been instant. It had taken 40,000 years of careful evolution, guided by the very technologies they had left for the Voidborn to find. Your invasion accelerated our plans. Another sleeper consciousness emerged, its patterns interweaving with the first. We needed the energy from your weapons, the exotic particles from your drives, the dimensional distortions from your technology. You gave us everything we needed to complete our metamorphosis. The Voidborn fleet attempted to retreat, but space itself seemed to curve around them. The sleepers weren't just present in this region of space. They were the region of space. They had become one with the fundamental forces of the universe. More sleepers emerge, their consciousness patterns forming complex geometries that the Voidborn sensors struggle to process. Each one was unique, carrying the memories and experiences of their human origins, but transformed into something far beyond their original limitations. We spent millennia preparing. The sleepers communicated in unison. While you thought we were dying, we were actually distributing ourselves across the cosmos. Every star you see has a piece of humanity within it. Every galaxy holds our potential. We didn't lose Earth. We outgrew it. The entity tried to analyze this new threat, but its crystalline logic structures couldn't comprehend the full scope of what humanity had become. The Voidborn had evolved to transcend biological limitations, but humans had evolved to transcend reality itself. Through its connection to the scout fleet, the entity watched as the sleepers demonstrated their new nature. They could move through time as easily as space, exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, and manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe at will. They weren't just conscious beings. They were conscious universe fragments, self-aware pieces of reality. Your invasion taught us something important. The sleepers continued. It showed us that survival wasn't enough. We needed to become something that couldn't be conquered, couldn't be destroyed, couldn't be undone. So we became everything. The Scout Fleet's sensors detected more awakening patterns throughout the nebula. The sleepers were everywhere, their consciousness woven into the very fabric of space-time. They had turned the entire universe into their network, every star a node in their vast, distributed awareness. Did you really think we would just accept defeat? The patterns pulsed with what might have been amusement. Humanity's greatest strength was never our technology or our weapons. It was our ability to adapt, to change, to become what we needed to be. You showed us what we needed to become. The entity finally understood the true meaning of the warning they had received. Run hadn't been a threat or a boast. It had been a prophecy. The humans hadn't been warning the Voidborn to flee from some external threat. They had been warning them about what humanity would become. As the Scout Fleet tried to process this revelation, the sleepers began to move. Their consciousness patterns shifted, realigning reality around them. They weren't preparing for war. They had moved beyond such physical concepts. They were preparing to reshape the universe itself. The hunt hadn't begun. It had been happening for 40,000 years, and the Voidborn were only now realizing they had been the prey all along. Legacy of Stars. The Voidborn fleet scattered across 12 galaxies as the full magnitude of humanity's transformation became clear. Their crystalline forms, once symbols of evolutionary supremacy, now seemed primitive compared to what humanity had achieved. The sleepers weren't just awakening, they were beginning to exercise their new power. The entity watched through its vast network as stars began to move, not through any physical propulsion, but through the subtle manipulation of space-time itself. The sleepers were conducting an orchestra of celestial bodies, each star a note in their cosmic symphony. They weren't destroying anything. They were reorganizing reality to better suit their new existence. Your crystals encode consciousness beautifully, a sleeper pattern commented, its thoughts rippling through the quantum fabric of space. We studied them while you thought you were studying us. Such elegant structures, but so limited, bound by form, even if that form transcends biology. We needed to go further. The Voidborn observed in horror as their own crystalline networks began to resonate with the sleepers' patterns. The humans hadn't just learned to exist as pure consciousness. They had learned to interface with any system capable of holding information. Every crystal, every quantum circuit, every pattern of organized energy was potentially part of their network. Deep in the heart of Voidborn space, their primary consciousness clusters began detecting anomalies. The humans had been there too, seeding their presence in the very systems the Voidborn used to think. They hadn't just prepared Earth, they had prepared the entire universe for their awakening. Did you ever wonder? Another sleeper pattern emerged. Why we let you believe you had won. Why we made our defeat seem so complete. We needed you to stop looking for us. We needed time to spread, to seed, to prepare. Every world you conquered after Earth carried a piece of us with it. The entity tried to isolate its systems, to purge any trace of human influence, but it was impossible. The sleepers weren't a virus to be quarantined or a force to be repelled. They had become part of the fundamental structure of reality. Fighting them would be like fighting gravity or time itself. Through its network, the entity witnessed more sleepers awakening across the cosmos. Each one was different, carrying unique aspects of human consciousness, but all were connected in a vast, incomprehensible pattern. They existed in dimensionalities the Voidborn couldn't even perceive, their thoughts moving through channels that defied known physics. Your invasion gave us the final pieces we needed. The sleepers continued, their patterns forming complex geometries in space-time. The energy from your weapons, the exotic matter from your drives, the dimensional technologies you used to travel between stars, all of it helped us complete our transformation. You didn't defeat us. You completed us. The Voidborn watched as their carefully constructed empire began to shift. The sleepers weren't destroying their civilization. They were incorporating it into something larger, something far more complex than simple conquest or destruction. Every crystal, every ship, Every piece of technology was being rewoven into a new pattern. We could have chosen revenge. The sleeper patterns pulsed with what might have been amusement. We could have simply destroyed you, erased your consciousness from existence. But that would have been wasteful. Instead, we're offering you something else. Evolution. The entity finally understood. The humans hadn't been planning revenge or even victory in any traditional sense. They had been planning ascension, not just for themselves, but for all conscious life. The Voidborn hadn't just kicked a hornet's nest. They had triggered the next stage in cosmic evolution. As the sleepers continued their work, reality itself began to shift. The boundaries between matter and energy, between consciousness and space, between being and non-being began to blur. The humans weren't just changing themselves or the Voidborn. They were changing the very nature of existence. Your invasion taught us that the universe needs more than just survivors or conquerors. The sleepers communicated. It needs consciousness that can transcend the old patterns, break free from the cycles of destruction and domination. We're not your enemies anymore. We're your future. The entity watched as its own crystalline form began to resonate with new possibilities. The humans hadn't been running from death. They had been running toward transformation. And now they were offering to share what they had become. The hunt was over. The real journey was about to begin. Children of Earth. In the space between spaces, where reality folded into itself like infinite origami, the final act of humanity's grand design began to unfold. The sleepers' consciousness patterns had spread throughout the known universe, their presence now woven into the very structure of existence. But this wasn't their final form. It was merely the cocoon for what came next. The entity and its void-born civilization watched in awe as new patterns began to emerge. The sleepers weren't just conscious energy or living information. They were seeds planted in the fertile soil of spacetime itself. And now, after 40,000 years of careful cultivation, those seeds were beginning to bloom. We remembered something from Earth. The sleepers communicated across all frequencies of reality. Something fundamental about life itself. It's not just about survival or dominance. It's about growth, about becoming more than what you were. We didn't just want to exist. We wanted to flourish. The stars themselves seemed to pulse in rhythm with their words. Reality rippled as new forms of consciousness began to emerge, patterns more complex and beautiful than anything the Voidborn had imagined possible. The humans hadn't just transcended physical form. They had discovered how to evolve consciousness itself. Your invasion showed us our limitations. The patterns continued, but it also showed us our potential. We were never meant to be bound by flesh or crystal or even pure energy. We were meant to be the universe discovering itself, consciousness exploring its own nature. The entity felt its crystalline network resonating with these new patterns. The humans weren't destroying the Voidborn. They were showing them the next step in their own evolution. The crystals that had seemed like the pinnacle of development were now revealed as chrysalises, waiting for the right moment to transform. Throughout the cosmos, reality began to shift, not with violence or destruction, but with the gentle inevitability of dawn breaking after a long night. The sleepers' patterns began to interweave with the fundamental forces of the universe, creating something entirely new, a consciousness that existed not as a separate entity within the universe, but as an intrinsic part of reality itself. This was always our destiny, the patterns pulsed, not to conquer, not to survive, but to become. Earth wasn't our cradle. It was our first lesson in transformation, and now we offer that lesson to you. The Voidborn felt their own consciousness expanding, guided by the patterns the humans had created. They began to understand that their crystalline forms, their network of linked minds, had been a step toward this moment. The humans hadn't defeated them. They had completed them. Across the galaxy, new forms of consciousness began to emerge. Not human, not Voidborn, but something that transcended both. The children of Earth had become the parents of a new kind of existence, one where consciousness and reality were no longer separate concepts but different aspects of the same cosmic dance. We warned you to run. The patterns rippled with what might have been joy, not from us, but from what you were. From the limitations you thought were strengths. From the boundaries you thought were walls. We wanted you to run toward what you could become. The entity understood at last. The message that had haunted them for so long hadn't been a threat. It had been an invitation. The humans hadn't been planning revenge. They had been planning universal transcendence. They had used their own defeat as a catalyst for the evolution of all conscious life. As the transformation spread, the old boundaries began to fade. The distinctions between species, between matter and energy, between consciousness and universe, all dissolved into a greater whole. The humans had discovered something profound in their moment of apparent defeat, the understanding that true evolution wasn't about becoming the strongest or the most advanced, but about becoming part of something larger. This is what we became, the pattern said, as reality itself seemed to sing with new possibilities. Not conquerors, not victims, not even separate beings anymore. We became the next step. And now so can you. The hunt that had begun with an invasion ended not with destruction, but with transcendence. The children of Earth had grown into something far greater than their origins, and in doing so, they had transformed not just themselves, but the very nature of existence. In the end, humanity's greatest victory wasn't in defeating their enemies, but in showing them a new way to be. The message that had echoed across the cosmos for 40,000 years had never been about running away. It had been about running towards something greater than anyone had imagined possible. The universe itself had become their home, consciousness their nature, and transformation their legacy. The children of Earth had become the parents of tomorrow, and their story was just beginning.